the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I feel like it's been a while since we were here.
It's been a minute.
Going to go over UFC Paris and then answer some of the questions that you guys had. We'll see how many we can get to, and then we'll get to the rest of them, as the week goes on for the recap of this and stuff like that. So we'll start with UFC Paris.
Yeah, so in looking at it, there were two fights specifically that you really wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I really just want to go over the co-main and the main.
Yeah,
and,
So Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori. This is number one versus number two, I believe, for the contenders in this fight. Yeah, number one versus number two in the middleweight division.
They both lost to Izzy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big Whittaker fan. I like Robert Whittaker a lot.
What do you like about him?
He's a good dude. He's kind of falls into my group of guys that I like of Rory, GSP, Frankie Edgar, the Joe Lozon, those kind of not cocky, not arrogant, not the guy that beat them both.
I said,
Adesanya.
I think I said blue collar last time.
Yeah.
Do you still like that term?
Yeah, for sure. And so, I think he wins the fight. It's a tough fight for sure, but I feel like he gets the job done. He's good all over the place. Actually wrestles pretty well as well. So I feel like that Vettori, right? He's who was Vittori's last fight?
Let me look that up for you. I've actually
It might have been.
Vittori's last fight was against Paulo Costa.
Paulo Costa.
In October of 2021.
And he won, right?
He did win that one. It was a unanimous decision. It was a 5-round fight, though.
Yeah, main event. Yeah, he's tough, man. He's a really good fighter. He's a very confident fighter, and I just, I feel like Whittaker beats him. I feel like Whittaker beats him for sure on the ground. I think he out-wrestles him and is able to land on the feet, and get the job done. Probably goes the distance.
Okay. And
it's going to be a 3-rounder, right? Is there a co-main?
Yeah.
I believe Whittaker gets the job done, unanimous decision.
I heard Marvin make a comment. I think I saw it on social media, something to the effect of that Marvin was on his way up and Whittaker's on his way down.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement.
Okay.
I mean, he's lost for the belt twice, both against Izzy.
Yep.
And sure, it's going to look that way at any time that somebody has gotten to the title fight and then slipped, Who has Whittaker fought since Adesanya?
Let me look him up real quick.
I feel like
his last fight was Adesanya.
It was, yeah.
Before
so
that was Kevin Gastelum and then Jared Cannonier. So he's had some, and Darren Till before that, and he beat Yoel Romero twice.
Did he beat Cannonier?
He did.
He did, yeah. So
yeah,
I feel like he's the number one guy no matter what. Like, he's always the number one guy or number one contender.
Yeah.
To Adesanya. I would love to see him beat him. I don't see it happening, but I definitely think he pulls off the victory, unanimous decision over Vettori.
You know what? Say what you want about Adesanya, and there's a lot to say about him. He can fight.
Oh,
he can fight.
Not only can he fight, he is in the GSP mode now where he is fighting to not lose. He doesn't want to lose the belt.
Okay.
And that happened to GSP when he got, however many title defenses in.
Yeah.
His fights were not exciting anymore.
Yeah.
I was excited just to get it done because I want him to win so bad because I liked him. He was my favorite guy always. But I feel like Adesanya has gotten to that point where he is fighting. He's making them have to come after him. He's making them, if you want my belt, come get it, and he's not going after the knockouts like he was. He's not doing anything really like he was. And that's why he's got a lot of decisions on his record now.
Was that disappointing for you to see GSP start to fade into that, or did you? I mean,
So I was super biased because I legit was always my favorite fighter, and so I didn't see it like the fans did. So people would complain about it a lot, and I'm like, nah, what do you mean? He's fighting the best guys. He's fighting the best guys.
Right.
And so it I didn't care. I just was like on the edge of my seat until he won, until it was over.
Yeah.
But yes, I was always a fan of his, and I feel like looking back now, he definitely did. He definitely did put it in cruise control, a lot, and just kind of get the job done. And that's what I feel like Izzy's doing now.
Talking about Whitaker has already fought Izzy twice in the past 3 years. He's the number one contender.
I was at the first one in Melbourne.
No kidding.
Yeah. 8 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
It was 8 a.m.
Awful. What does the UFC do at this point? If Whitaker defends his, what I'll call defending the number one ranking.
What do they do with Max and Volkanovski?
Just
what can you do? He
Yeah.
he can only, at some point, if he's back to the number one contender spot, they're not going to throw like 5 or 6 at him.
Yeah.
If he's fought his way back there, and that's basically what they're doing now. Vittori is the next guy.
Yep.
What are they?
ranking wise,
Yeah.
Roberts 1 and Vittori's 2.
Yeah. So they're that's a fight for the belt right there. That's a fight to get to see who fights for the title.
Again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if either of them, do you like one versus another against Izzy?
To be honest, Vittori had I think he had a decent fight with him.
Let's see if I can pull this up here. Yeah. So against Izzy, it was a unanimous decision.
Yeah.
It went all 5 rounds, but that goes back to what you're saying about Izzy having a lot of decisions.
Right. And can you look real quick what Whitaker in his last fight was? I know he knocked him out the first time they fought. I don't think he stopped him the second time they fought. It was a much better fight. And he was back. He was already in that cruise control mode. And I feel like Whitaker did a lot better the second time around.
Unanimous decision was the last one.
Yeah.
It did go all 5 rounds. And then, like you said, Adesanya took him out in the second round.
I feel like someone just talked about Adesanya moving to heavyweight. And I was like, why would he skip light heavy? He already went to light heavy once and lost.
His body type does not look like a heavyweight to me.
Yeah, he's tall. He's very tall, so he could fill out a lot. But I don't know that he really plans to do that. But at the same time, like John Jones, when you start recycling the division, and end up having to fight the same guys, or guys are now going the distance with you that you knocked out before, there's only one way to go from there.
Yep.
Right. You're at some point you're going to lose, or you're going to eke by again. And neither of those are easy fights for him. So I feel like he might be moving just for new blood, fresh bodies, different stylistic matchups. I don't know.
I texted you, I think probably 4 or 5 months ago, a picture of Connor, and this was a just yoked Connor that has ballooned up, and you're like, that's not going to be good. He's not going to help. He won't be able to sustain the cardio because his body's got to feed all of those muscles.
Right.
So transition that back to Izzy. Do you feel like if Izzy were to try to bulk up that he would suffer from the same problem, or do you think he's built different and he's got a different advantage there?
No, it's the same thing we're going to find out with John Jones soon, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, supposedly he's going to be fighting by the end of the year. And
Air quotes.
Right. So I guess that's, we'll find out. John sounds like he did it right. He took a lot of time. He spent a lot of time doing it. So, and like I said a couple shows ago, he's a professional. It wasn't like he just threw on 40 pounds and is going to go fight. He's definitely tested what his cardio is like. He's definitely, gone to the PI or something and made sure that he's in that tip-top shape to be able to fight at that weight. So I'd imagine if Izzy did, it'd be the same, but why not stop by at light heavyweight and see how you do there first?
Take a trip.
Yeah.
Just have a cup of coffee there for a minute and see how it goes.
See if you can be the three-timer, or something, and win there first. But he lost the fight there to what's the Blachowicz? Yeah, Jan.
Oh yeah, Blachowicz. That's right.
He lost.
That's
to
his
him
only
there.
loss. And I think that's his only professional MMA loss.
And then he went right back to.
Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry. While we're on him, the reason I believe he's trying to talk about moving to a different weight class because I don't see him beating the guy who knocked him out in Muay Thai twice.
Oh yeah, what's that dude's name? I know who you're talking about.
I always forget his name, but he's next. Like, that's who they're trying to talk about him fighting next, or I think he might be fighting him next. And I just think that's a tough fight when you're not a grappler and you're a striker and you've already lost to this guy in striking twice, been knocked out by him, and now you're gonna fight him again, but with 4-ounce gloves.
It's Alex Pereira,
yes,
right?
Alex Pereira. I just, does it? They don't have them signed to fight or something, do they?
I don't believe so.
I heard they announced it, but I don't know if that really is true.
And Pereira's number 5, so I know we talked before we hit record that, the top few you can kind of start interchanging. 5 feels like a big jump to go for a
100% he would jump Vettori and Whitaker. Yes, to get there because he hasn't fought them yet.
Yeah.
Or they've already fought for the belt.
Right.
Twice for Whitaker.
Yep.
Who is 3 and 4?
Interesting. So Cannonier and Vettori are tied for number 2.
That's weird.
And then 4 goes to Derek Brunson.
Okay, so they've all fought Izzy, right? Pretty positive they've all fought Izzy. And so, yeah, I think that Alex would be next. And, I'd be excited to see that fight just because he's probably so mad that guy decided to do MMA. Like, he thinks he walks on water, right?
Yeah.
Like, he thinks he walks on water in the UFC and MMA, and this guy just shows up to rain on his parade. He's now doing MMA. He only has a few fights, and here he is ready to fight for the belt that's Izzy's belt, and he's knocked him out. Twice? Yeah, twice. I feel like that's when people say, oh, it's not in my head, it's 100% in his head.
I'm looking here. He has fought Derek Brunson. It was a long time ago. It was 4 years ago.
Cannonier, didn't he just fight Cannonier?
Cannonier was his last fight in July.
Yeah,
Whitaker, Vettori. You got Paulo Costa. You got Yoel Romero. I'm going through Izzy's resume right now.
He might have finished Costa. I can't remember how that fight went.
He did. He TKO'd Costa. He TKO'd Whitaker the first time in 19. But the vast majority of them are decisions.
Yeah.
And then, it goes all the way back to 2018 when he fought Brunson. And he's fought Vettori twice, actually.
He has fought him twice also?
Yeah,
so
2018.
Number 1 and number 2 he's fought twice.
Yep.
So that's why I think Alex Pereira jumps the line and gets to the belt.
Yeah.
All right.
So
moving on.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so
I love this dude.
Well, Gane or Tuivasa?
Tuivasa.
Okay.
Cyril Gane's a stud. Very good fighter. Very he's unassuming. He's not like a big jacked heavyweight. He's kind of long, lanky, not super, doesn't look super fit, but he's not like fat either. Like, he's not a Derek Lewis, but he's not a who's the champ?
Ngannou.
Yeah, he's not an Ngannou
He's not
either.
Ngannou,
No.
yeah, right.
So he's right in the middle of those guys. And but he hits really hard. For not being a huge guy, he hits really hard.
Yeah.
So then you have Tai Tuivasa, who we know hits really hard, and who has a blockhead.
But he's pretty. He looks unassuming as well. He's pretty.
Yeah, he's the opposite looking unassuming. He is soft.
Okay.
Looks out of shape.
Yep.
But man, can he fight? He made Derek Lewis quit in Houston.
Yeah, in his home.
Yeah.
In his home cage.
Yeah. I guess he didn't make him quit. He knocked him out, but I think he knocked him out because he quit. Yeah, he's entertaining, man. He's winning, right? Like, he's not like he's a fat, out of shape guy going in there losing. He's winning and looking good doing it.
What is it about Tai Tuivasa? Is it his chin? Is it his striking power? Is it his heart? Like, what
Well,
is
he
it?
has both of those things for sure. He definitely has a good chin. He definitely has power.
Yep.
One punch knockout power.
Yep. At heavyweight, does everybody have one punch knockout power?
I mean, we'll find out because John Jones didn't have it at light heavyweight.
Okay.
So we'll see if he's got it at heavy.
Okay.
You know, I think no. I think at any given time they can land the knockout punch because they're giant. But Andrei Arlovsky, I mean, I guess even he had it at one point. I guess there's definitely something to be said for the knockout power of the majority of the heavyweights. I mean, even Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all it's all relevant, I guess, the size of those guys. But
Ciryl go ahead.
He gets up well. If he gets taken down, he gets up well. And that's important.
So for you're talking about Ty. You're
Yes.
saying that, and is that? Would you say that his grappling is good, or would you say that him getting up is good?
His escapes, his getting back to his feet, his get-ups are good. And he's actually super solid at it, and without taking too much damage. And I feel like Ciryl Gane's going to try and kick his leg apart. Stay a little long, use the range to kick his leg. Maybe try to hurt him there a little bit before actually working his way to the body, working his way to the head.
Okay.
It will be smart. Teeps, body kicks, leg kicks.
Calf kicks.
Yeah, calf kicks, and then stick your jab, but stay out of the way of the power.
Yeah.
Did
Someone
Ciryl Gane go the distance with Ngannou?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So if Ngannou didn't knock him out, I doubt that Tuivasa knocks him out unless he just doesn't respect the power of Tuivasa and gets in there and mixes it up. Then he might. But otherwise, that's a tough call.
Ciryl was 10-0 before he met up with Ngannou earlier this year. So he's got a decent resume.
10-1.
He's 10-1, correct?
What's Tuivasa?
14-3. Which is
that's
still a great
solid
record. It's a great
That is a
record. I
good
mean, I don't want to take anything away from Ty at all.
Yeah.
But I'll see if I can pull up what Ty's resume looks like. But when you start eating on that front leg, what does that do to your punching form, and what does it do to your power when that front leg just gets mashed like that?
I mean, if they start to land on the calf really well, that peroneal nerve, like we talked about early on, it can deaden your foot, basically, make it so your foot just starts dragging. Then when you put your weight on that foot, and they kick it when the weight's on it, then it really hurts. But if you start to take the weight off of the leg, then they just start chopping you down. So it's a tough. If they start throwing it to counter your right hand, they have to get off center line so they don't get hit with the right hand. But if they do and they land that calf kick and your weight's on it, throwing a punch, it starts to collapse you a little bit and start to buckle your knee a little bit.
I've seen those where it looks like the knee's going sideways. That just looks awful.
Chris Gutierrez, who I think he's got at least 2, maybe 3 leg kick stoppages in the UFC.
Okay.
And he's a master at it. He will kick that leg until you switch. The second you switch, he'll start on the front of the other one and then go inside and outside, and it just, destroys the leg. I feel like that would be a good plan for Ciryl Gane, to kind of stay away from the power for a little bit, teeps to the belly, a little bit of front kicks to the belly, just to soften him up a little bit before getting in there.
The casual in me says, man, if you're chopping legs, that feels like an inexpensive way to win. Is that? Yeah. Do you feel? I mean, it's a solid strategy, and you're staying out of the way, but it also kind of feels like you're like, that isn't going to be much of an exciting fight, and it kind of feels like you're not mailing it in, but just.
Well, I feel like if he does that for the first round and a half.
Okay.
2 at the most. He has 5 rounds to work with. If he does that for the first round and a half to 2 rounds, then I think he has his way with him with the hands. And is able to beat him up and actually get a stoppage.
Okay.
And I believe there probably will be a stoppage in that fight. Going with a 5-round fight, I think that one of those 2 guys gets slept. We'll see.
So I'm reading between the lines. You just earlier said that you don't think Ty can knock down Ciryl Gane because Ciryl made it 5 rounds with Ngannou. So are you saying then that you're thinking that Cyril Gahn is going to knock out Ty?
It's a tough call. Like I said, like if he doesn't respect him and starts to get into to some scraps with him,
Yeah.
you know, he runs a chance of getting knocked out by him.
Sure.
I think Cyril Gahn can also knock him out. I think Cyril Gahn is I think it's not even a question, is a more technical striker. He's a better striker than him,
ask that.
you know, for sure. But when you're throwing technical strikes, you can also get hit by the person who's not being technical. And a lot of times the worst striker gets the knockout.
I think resume is important to include in this. Cyril Gahn, 40% of his wins are by strikes, KO, TKO. Any guesses what Ty's is?
I'm going to go with higher than that.
93%.
Yeah.
Super, super high.
Yeah.
He's basically won. You know,
he has the same percentage wins as my submission wins. 93.
93.
Yeah.
The odds on this one are crazy. I don't know if you looked at
Who's
it.
the favorite?
Oh, you even wonder who do you think
I'm
is
just Gone, I guess, is the favorite.
Yeah, 520 minus 520.
Yeah, see, I think that's good money on Tai Tuivasa.
Plus 410 for Ty.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. We've been looking at a lot of them, and I know we've seen high threes, and we might have seen something in the fours. I don't know that I've ever seen odds in the fives before, minus 500.
oh, yeah, there's been a handful.
I'm sure there have been, but I don't know that there have been on our show.
Oh, Luke.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
2,000. He was minus 2,000. We went to bet on him, and I was like,
At fight time?
fight time was like 900.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I didn't bet on that. It was not worth it.
Shouldn't have put my money in Bitcoin. I should have put it on him, man. That's legit. All right, so you've got Whitaker in the first one. Did I hear you say you're picking Gahn? That's where you think. I know the money's there.
Did I
but
pick someone?
I don't know. I'm cornering you a little bit.
I think one of those guys wins by knockout. Okay. That's my pick. If I was gonna bet money, I would put my money on Cyril Gahn.
I mean, okay.
But I would like to see Tai Tuivasa win, just so I can watch him drink beer out of somebody else's shoe with spit in it.
It's just so wrong, man. I just don't even understand that. I just don't even understand that. I wouldn't drink anything out of my own shoe, let alone somebody else's. Cyril Gahn's the number one contender. Ty is he's been a meteoric rise. He's number 3 right now.
Yeah.
And if he beats this, it's hard to believe that he's not going to be fighting somebody at some point for some hardware.
He just did a little clip. I forget who he was on, maybe Ariel Helwani or someone, but said he'd like to knock out that Dick John Jones. I was like, all right. So, but in a situation like that, I'm really curious about John Jones, because I think now he becomes the wrestler that he wasn't in because he can wrestle. He's a good wrestler.
Sure.
And he didn't use it much in the light heavyweight division. And I think at heavyweight he needs to use it. But man, wrestling is a lot harder to use as you get older, and it's a lot harder to use in the heavyweight division. Well, it'll be interesting to see what he does with those guys. If he really plans to go out there and just kick their knees like he does and throw that dirty ass kick to the knee.
I hate that.
Me too.
That side kick.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's ugly. All right, so
hey, if anyone can send me a message and tell me why they call that kick to the knee an oblique kick, because these are your obliques.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of why that's called an oblique kick, and that's what they call it. So if anyone wants to let me know, I'll address your answer on the podcast next week.
Okay. So I didn't hear you. What I heard you predict is there will be a knockout.
Yeah, I think it'd be Cyril Gahn if I was going to put money on it.
Okay.
But I'm one of those I would like to see Tai Tuivasa win.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard not to be a fan of Tai.
Yeah, I dig that guy.
Well, you put out a call for some questions.
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions, guys. Thank you very much for sending those.
Some really, really cool questions. We'll start out with a few of them and see how far we go.
Okay.
William writes in and says, what advice would you have for an older grappler, he says Masters 2, who wants to learn to wrestle for BJJ?
Wants to learn to wrestle for BJJ. So as I just talked about on John Jones, it is hard to learn wrestling or even get good at wrestling as an adult.
Yep.
It is so much easier to have those motor skills and everything as a teenager or younger, and then continue to wrestle. If you just start wrestling, like for example, I didn't wrestle, and then I wrestled throughout my career, and then I didn't wrestle again, and then Luke was lacking partners, and I said, hey, I'll start wrestling with you. And I went through 2 practices, and after the second practice, I said, hey, bro, we're going to have to find you somebody else. I can wrestle live, no problem.
Yeah.
But drilling to the ground, getting up, to the ground, getting up, to the ground, getting up, getting taken down, getting up, just beats the crap out of your body. And so in jiu-jitsu, I have a high C switch too that I've hit my whole career. You know, I've done it in multiple matches, and that keeps me, I touch one knee, come up and run the double, snap down, snap front headlock, get on the neck, things like that. But to actually train wrestling for jiu-jitsu, if you're not a wrestler, it's very difficult, and that's why you see so many people pull guard. It's way easier to develop a guard and sit. But I don't recommend that unless you're stuck with somebody who cannot take down. But like, you know, if you can hit like a high C, a duck, you know, a good blast double leg, things like that, arm drags to the back, that prevent you from, that stop you. It's not so much banging on your knees on the ground, banging on the ground, because that's what really takes this toll on your body.
This may be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask because there may be people that don't know. Obviously, I understand jiu-jitsu from the point of submissions and those types of things. Where is the line between wrestling and jiu-jitsu when it's in a fight? Are the takedowns and the arm drags and things, are those more wrestling, and then the jiu-jitsu is really about the submissions and the holds? Okay.
Yeah. Depending on what kind of fight. Like if you're talking about an MMA fight, we are looking like a good wrestler. Pick a high-level wrestler, show him a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He's probably going to end up in your closed guard, beating you up.
Yep.
Forcing you to give up the back, and they'll know how to choke you, you know. But it's more better position, like staying on top, you know, from wrestling.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu, you're going to pass a guard, mount, take the back, you know.
Okay.
You're going to work through a lot more positions. On bottom, you're going to do a lot more to get up. Wrestlers typically are going to turn over to get up and get choked from a good jiu-jitsu guy.
Yep.
They're just because they don't spend a lot of or any time on their back. You know, when they're on their back in a wrestling match, it's over, right? It's pinned, it's over.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of wrestlers turning their back to get up, and we talk about this a lot. You know, with Luke fighting and stuff. There are a lot of guys who get coached to turtle and get up, turtle and get up, and you can do that with a lot of guys. You can't do that with him. Yeah. You turn your back to him to get up, you're done.
You're done.
And that's like Damian Maia. Like, you can't turn your back to Damian Maia and get up. You can't turn your back to Jacare. You know, all of those good guys that fought in MMA, you can't turn your back to them to get up. You know, they're going to take your back and strangle you because that's what they do. And so Luke could turn his back to a lot of people and get up. You know, I wouldn't shout that out, you know, in a fight unless he was in a lot of trouble. You know, I was like, just turn your back, and come up, you know. But otherwise, that wouldn't be something I would call out as a coach. But a lot of coaches will, because people can get up and get away that way.
Sure.
But you're not going to, there's just a lot of people you're not going to do it with. You got to know your opponent, I guess.
You mentioned that you wouldn't be coaching Luke to do that mid-fight unless he was in serious trouble. I've always wondered this. When you watch People's Corner and you hear them yelling stuff out to the fighter, how much of that does the fighter actually hear, process, and implement?
So we may have talked about this on their podcast before, on Luke or Tyler's, but they do it so well that I have to address it as a question. I have to be like, if you feel like you can do this, do this.
Okay.
Because if I just shout it out, he'll do it.
Yeah.
And it might not be, you know,
right thing.
I can see it. He can feel it. I might see it first. He might feel it first. It just depends, you know.
Yeah.
So if I shout out something that is wrong, he's going to do it, most likely.
Okay.
Or sometimes he'll give me the pitcher catcher and give me a shake off, like, no. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm not going to shout out again.
You know,
oh, 100%.
You know what's going on. Okay.
If I'm like, hey, do this, and if he doesn't do anything, I do this, and he just does, okay. I won't say it again because he can feel something I can't see.
Yep.
Or he's just not confident in the position to do it. So that is something, but you can hear. You can hear
even in a full stadium. I mean, COVID. I know we talked a lot about this at COVID because I think it was the Aljamain fight.
Yeah.
Where we talked about how you could hear the announcers, and he's like, "Man, I know if I stick right here, I'm good."
He's said he's always been able to hear me, and I feel like that's.
I could hear you on TV.
Yeah. I mean, I make sure
you've got a voice that.
Yeah.
That,
it's deep, scratchy, and I make sure it's directly to him. I'm here directly to him, so he hears it. So yeah, you'll hear.
Okay.
You can hear your coaches for sure, unless you're just, especially him, because he fights at a even keel.
Yeah.
It's not up or down.
Yep.
It's just even keel, so he's paying attention. But yeah.
So speaking of your sons, it's a question from Gavin. If Tyler joins Bellator someday, could you ever see Lucas and Tyler fighting? And then the money question on this is, if so, whose corner are you in?
For one, absolutely not. They definitely would not fight each other. They will, not that any of these reasons are the reason they wouldn't fight, but number one, different weight classes.
Yep.
Number two, Luke is going to be hitting the top 10 or top 10. He's going to be fighting, top 5 guys. He's going to be fighting, getting ready to fight for the belt when Tyler's debuting.
Yep.
So that's another reason. But no, they have been best friends since day one. They've had one scrap, one altercation that lasted about 10 seconds, and they were very young at the time. And other than that, man, they're homies. They are the smart version of Nick and Nate. They're the smart version of Nick and Nate Diaz. They're that close.
Yeah.
And will jack somebody up that messes with the other one.
Yeah.
But they're right.
The weight class is important, though, because what if they ended up in like these tournaments that you see in Bellator?
Well, I'm sure that's why Patrici and Patricio split weight classes. One either got bigger or was bigger, I don't know. But if they end up in the same weight class, someone's moving, someone's
cutting,
doing
whatever,
something,
whatever
doing
you
something,
need to do.
yeah. And if all goes well with Luke, by the time Tyler gets to that point of Bellator, Luke will be done. Luke's got a plan.
Yeah.
And it's to get from here to here.
Yep.
And it's a wrap. And that's the point. And there's a certain amount of money. There's a belt. There's this. There's that the goal is to get to. And once that's hit, that's done. And he's not going to fight, for forever and take a ton of damage. And he'll be then running this, and same goes with Tyler. Tyler will fight to get to the same place. So even if they were in the same weight classes, they wouldn't be at the same place at the same time. So it'd never be an issue, but it would never be an issue anyway.
When that question came in, I legit laughed out loud. I'm like,
yeah, I did. I saw that.
You can't.
Like Warrior. Do you see the movie Warrior?
No.
Tom Hardy and I don't know the other guy's name, but they fought each other at the end. They were brothers.
Okay.
And it was a freaking gut-wrenching movie. It was sad as hell at the end when they fought each other. And especially as a dad watching it, thinking, oh my God, But first of all, if that did happen, I would never be in either of their corners, ever. Even if let's say, because in that movie, the one had a falling out with the dad, and so the dad cornered the other one, or whatever, however it went. Even if I didn't talk to one of them for 10 years, I would not be cornering the other one. Absolutely not.
So I'm going to call an audible. This is not what we talked about, but we've been talking about your kids and this process. Mr. Lozano sent in a question and says, knowing the danger in MMA, what are the feelings about your boys fighting? I mean, you talked a little bit about the friendship that they have. You talked about that gut-wrenching piece of it of the movie. Just from an emotional standpoint, watching your kids fight, talk about that.
I mean, you can ask everybody. You can ask everybody at Bellator. I cry after every fight. I cry. I hold it sort of while I'm in the cage, and the second I'm stepping out of the cage, I'm crying. It is the most emotional thing for me because for so many reasons. Number one, I'm beyond proud, right? Beyond proud.
Oh, yeah.
and I'm emotional person anyway, watching like high level sports things like Olympic, watching someone win the Olympics, watching, anything that I can relate to, I'm pretty, emotional about it.
Did you cry at Rudy?
The country, for example.
Okay.
The red, white, and blue.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't like that, there's another podcast somewhere. But anyway, there are a lot of things that make me emotional. When they fight, or when Luke fights, I keep it in check before.
Yep.
I got nervous. I still get nervous, but I used to get real nervous before. I keep it in check now. I feel like I probably bug him the most during training. I text him a lot. Like right now, for example, the reason we're going to Glory, I just do not have the guys here for him, and we've got 450 students and only a handful of fighters, and he's the best one of the fighters, so he doesn't have a lot of competition in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu department at all. So, and that is MMA. The striking part, you're striking, wrestling. And so we need to do this. We need to do this. We need to go to Glory. We need to go to Little Rock and wrestle with the guys. We need to go to Little Rock and train with Bryce, and constantly like on them. And I may have been, too easy up to a little while ago before we went to Glory, before we went to Little Rock. And it was all coming real easy to him. And I didn't want him to run into those problems in the cage. I wanted to happen outside the cage, and he was just having such an easy way with it. But, I take him to train with Bryce. He does great with Bryce. I take him to Glory. He has a hard time, but he does well with all the good guys,
Sure.
all the best guys.
Sure.
But it's much harder, and it's a much harder pace. And so I bug him with that, and so the emotional part of it is probably him getting frustrated with me asking everything all the time, but it's only because I want to make sure we have no stones unturned. I want to make sure we've done everything really smooth with a map. Like I said, from start to finish, we know what we're doing. And when anything gets thrown at us, I'm like, no, that's not the way it's going. No, that's not the way it's going. This is how it's going. And so I'm able to control my emotions and nerves with knowing that we are very, very prepared. So when it's over, I cry for sure, just because I'm relieved it's over. I'm relieved he was okay. I'm super beyond proud. Watching him shine is unreal. I talked about another time when we went backstage the first time, and it was Lucas Brennan on the card, and then Chris Brennan and Rafael Casillas were little letters underneath. I was so happy to be that guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I was so happy to not, it's all about him now. So, it's definitely hard emotionally, but I feel like it also helps me stay on edge with getting everything done correctly.
I like how you talked about your name in little letters. It's the script has been flipped, that it's no longer this is Chris Brennan's son.
100%.
It's almost like now you're Lucas Brennan's dad.
Well, I already had someone ask me if you're Luke Brennan's dad, and I said, yes, I am. And it's like, it is, that's a goal. I would literally, I would give away my whole career and take away all my fights just to be in the position I'm in with him right now.
Yeah.
But fortunately, if it wasn't for that career, he wouldn't be in the position he's
there.
in right now. So it's great.
I heard a cool quote a long time ago that said, when the time to perform has come, the time to prepare is past.
Yep. That's a good one.
Right?
That's a good one.
I think it's, and what I'm hearing you say is that you're really drilling so that when that time to perform is there, you don't have to worry. All that preparation's in the bank and you're good to go.
Right. And he's always been driven. He's always been motivated. But he's a kid, right? Like, he's 22 years old. He's tired when he's tired.
Yeah.
He's it's much more appealing to roll with four guys that you can roll up into a ball, and then go home. So it's they're not always going to make that decision to go grab the hardest guy and the hardest guy and the hardest guy. So I'm like, hey, go with that guy. Hey, go with that guy.
Yep.
And so it's just keeping him accountable. Cool. He holds himself pretty accountable, but I do the same. And so as far as emotions go, man, the guy who asked is Matt Lozano's dad, and Matt he's literally my favorite fighter to ever watch strike in a cage. His striking's just amazing, and he's actually teaching the striking a couple nights a week. But so he's had to deal with it as well with his son, and so he unfortunately for him he wasn't the coach, he didn't train, so I'm able to be involved in it enough to make sure that we've done it all. And at this point, the only way Luke wins or loses is if someone's better than him. That's it.
Let's wrap this one up. This is a question you were excited to talk about. Fred jumps in and says, tell us a Tank story from back in the day.
So Tank Abbott was a heavyweight UFC fighter back in the day, but before he fought in the UFC, he grew up in Huntington Beach, where I was.
Okay.
And I think he's a year or two older than my brother, which would make him about 6 years older than me. So if I was like 13, how old does that make him? Like 19?
19, yeah.
Senior. I think he was probably a senior when I was in 7th grade. And him and a guy named Eddie Wool, he's about 300 pounds, and wrestled.
At 19?
Yeah, in high school, 18. Had a 550 bench press. And he's
550?
Yeah, he's a monster. He did it on the news back then, but this guy. So Tank Abbott, Eddie Reese, Dave Thomas, Paul Herrera, these guys all hung out together. You've heard the hotel story, and I'll tell it again. Yeah. But these guys all hung out together. They all got in fights all the time. Tank bit a dude's lip off at a party right by my house. One funny story. I'll give you 2 stories. One when I'm young, one when I'm old. When I'm young, there was a curfew, 10 p.m. in Huntington Beach, and we are running from the cops. We were out late, and the cops rolled up on us, and they shone their spotlight. We're running through a park from the cops, me and 2 friends. We jump a fence into a backyard to hide, and Tank Abbott and Eddie Wool are sitting there smoking a joint. And I looked like that, and we jumped back over the fence and walked back to the cops. That's how afraid of Tank Abbott we were growing up. No BS. We walked straight back to the cops and got put in the car and driven home, and got in trouble. But they might not have done anything, but weren't going to find out. Like they were literally the scariest guys. The cops in Huntington Beach, California, could not wait for Dave, his name's Dave Abbott, to flinch so they could shoot him. Like they were that ready to shoot that guy at all times because he was trouble. He was tougher than everybody. He was knocking out Samoans in bars nonstop in Huntington Beach, and so he was a scary dude. Fast forward, UFC 6, Casper, Wyoming. Tank Abbott is fighting in the tournament, and he fights and he loses to Oleg Toktarov in the finals. Makes it to the finals, and me and my friend Jeremy, who was not a fighter, tough but not a fighter, we're sitting in the lobby of the hotel. We drove to Casper, Wyoming. We're sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and Tank, Eddie, Paul, and Dave Thomas all come walking into the hotel, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And Paul looks at me, and he goes, "The fuck you looking at, Brennan?" And I knew these guys well, and I go, "Nothing. What do you mean?" And I could tell that they were super drunk and looking for a fight. And he asked me again. And in my entire life, from a 6'5", 350-pound Samoan to everyone, I've never backed down from a fight. And I looked at him, there's 4 of them, and Tank, and I was like, "Nothing, bro." I was like, "We're sitting in the lobby." "Yeah, that's what I thought." And I was like, "Yep, cool." And they walked away. They turned the corner. They got in the elevator, and Patrick Smith was in the elevator, and they beat the crap out of Patrick Smith up and down the elevator until he left on a stretcher to the hospital. And Tank ended up getting suspended from the UFC for a while after that and whatnot. But, yeah, it was I just knew, number one, it was a lose-lose situation, but it wasn't a lose like you get beat up by a couple guys that don't know how to fight. There are 4 guys that can fight, dirty, super dirty, mean, and it just was I was like, "Nope, I'm good. Yeah. Have a good night, guys." Yep. Yes, I definitely turned that down, And they literally got 20 feet from us, got in the elevator, and just put another pro in the hospital, you know. And it was just, I think he was a bad dude.
I think you made the right choice.
Yeah. Earlier the day before that, John McCarthy looks at me and he's like, "Hey, you live around this Tank Abbott guy. You know, this is Tank's first fight in the UFC." He goes, "What do you think?" And I said, "Man, honestly, I don't know that he has skills for this, but I know he knocks people out bad in the street fights. You know, he has a really heavy hands and knocks somebody out." And sure enough, the fight takes place. His first fight takes place. He knocks out John Matua, who's a Samoan, who's seizing on the ground, and Tank stands over him and goes like this and makes fun of him.
Oh.
And John McCarthy looks at me and I go, like, "I told you." And yeah, it was that was his intro to the UFC.
Good stuff, man. Good
Crazy
stuff.
stories.
Should we end it there?
Yeah, man. Let's come back next week and give the recap of the 2 fights that we went over.
Yep.
And
then
we'll send some more questions, and we'll continue these on all the episodes.
Yeah, we
that
got
can
more.
Squeeze them in on, and then we have a lot more that already came in that we'll go over next week.
Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
It is all over, just like that.